We're ready to begin Chapter 4. Lesson 1 has to do with estimating. They begin pretty much each of our chapters with an estimation to kind of get us to see how they work in general, these numbers that we're using. We're going to be estimating with fractions and with mixed numbers. Let's first talk about fractions. Fractions meaning less than 1. Our first vocabulary word of this chapter is benchmark. And benchmark simply means a convenient number used to replace a fraction that's less than 1. We are going to be using benchmarks to estimate with fractions, and so we are going to use 3 of them. Either 0, a half, or 1. So we simply round the fraction to the nearest benchmark. So here are some examples. 1/12 would round to 0. 2/15 would round to 0. 7/75 would round to 0. All because they are closer to 0 than they are to a half, or even 1. 4/9 would round to a half. The easiest way to decide that is to think about what would be half of the denominator. Even if it would be a decimal, half or a fraction, half of 9 is 4.5. So 4 would be very close to that, and that's why we would round it to a half. 7/12. Half of 12 is 6. 7 is very close to that, so it would also round to a half. 25/60. Half of 60 is 30. That would be closer to a half than it would to either 1 or 0. And here's another set. 7/8, 47/50, 29/35. These would all round to 1 because they are closer to 1 than they are to a half. And again, the easiest way is to think of what would be half of. Half of 35 is 17.5. So you have to think about how far away is 29 from 35 and how far away is 29 from 17.5. It's farther from 17.5 and closer to 35, which is why it would round up to 1. Once we've rounded these numbers with the benchmarks, then we simply add or subtract whatever the question is asking us to do. The difference with mixed numbers is that we do not use a half. We will estimate mixed numbers to the nearest whole amount, at least for adding, subtracting, or multiplying. So, if the fraction part is less than a half, we would drop the fraction and just keep the whole number. For example, 3 2/9. That would round to 3. If the fraction is a half or bigger, we would add 1 to the whole number. If we had 3 7/9, that would round up to 4. The only exception with the mixed numbers is division, because we need to use compatible numbers when we're estimating. Because remember, the whole point of estimating is to be able to do it mentally. So we would want to round the divisor to the nearest whole number, then find the closest compatible dividend to divide with. All right, happy estimating.